So today we're really going to be sharing some of our own experience in PDS of how we've moved from creating a bit of a web form to moving it forward and building a whole engagement and contact management structure using the tools that are simply out of the box. And this came from a challenge of how we've got too many inboxes, we've got email addresses on our website for people to get in touch with us, and we wanted to work out a way of actually trying to manage that in a really good way as we became PDS and became more established as a business engagement team. So what we came up with is one of the challenges was how do we create that unified approach and how do we make sure that we're able to work in a really effective way. So what we did is look at where our inbound messages were coming in, and this is for unallocated or messages without a specific person going to. So we got various inboxes and we got the website. And what we wanted to do was to turn that into a single pane of glass where we knew all those contacts were, and then we could manage them through the whole process. And then I'd be able to have that tracking and make sure that if somebody asks us a question, we got back to them in a really quick way, as much as we possibly could. So on screen now is our PDS website, the Police Digital Service website, and the Contact Us page. And we've deliberately taken the email addresses off the website as much as possible because we want you to get the answers as quickly as possible to the answers. So by putting a Microsoft form in place, we've been able to actually direct your inquiry to the right people the moment you submit the inquiry, so we can manage that. And of course, using a form to do that gave us instant data. So we were even immediately able to tell where our inquiries were coming from and what sort of volumes we were getting in each one. So it gave us more information, and that form could be attached out as emails or QR codes on leaflets, etc. So we were giving that much more informed approach to the business, so we know what to do. So we thought, wow, great, we've got the forms working, but how about our email approach? So we wanted them all to come to the same place as well. So we looked at using a Power Automate to extract details coming into the email inboxes. So a little bit of work to make sure all the inboxes that weren't always as well monitored as we would like ended up in the same place. And then you can see on screen there a little bit of an example. Now I'm going to switch to the live Power Automate to give you an idea. So you can see the trigger of this is whenever a new email arrives into a shared inbox. That's all it needs to build this, to start that off. Whenever a new email arrives in the group inbox, we then do a couple of checks on it. And we're looking for the things that we don't want it to do anything for. So there's a few little commonly email attachments that came in and we didn't want to trigger the process for. And if it did that, it went straight into terminate, which is a simple, yeah, if it's one of them, stop the process. Fantastic. If it's no, we built a little delay to allow any anti-spam rules we got running on the inbox to run, and then we started the process. So it simply reads the body of the email into text. So it takes that HTML of the email, puts it into body, and then composes that back into text, and then we're straight into SharePoint to create a list item. And we'll show you some cleaned data on the list in a second. So it basically, you can see this simple automate, which took 15 minutes off a template to create, is just reading the email inbox, and it only fires whenever an email arrives in this inbox. It pulls the subject from the email, it pulls the address where it's sent it from. We look for the surnames, we put all the details about the organization in there, and we literally put the detail of what's in that email, the subject matter, and there's the outputs from extracting that into it. And we even mark the time it was received into the list. So we've built all that in there straight away, and then when it's done that, it finishes. So a very simple automate that is a template automate that you can build in a matter of minutes to be triggering our forms. It reads an email and it creates an item in our list, and you can see how it's done that on this example here. It's pulled all the detail in and it's pulled all the detail into the list, and nobody actually reads the inbox. We all manage off the list. So that means now our list is bringing together anybody who fills in a form, no matter how they got to the form, or anybody who's emailed one of those group inboxes, and you can see the sort of example it's here. And it's very much like products you may have already used to manage lists and management. You simply drag things across. If you've got something in new and you marked it complete, you'd simply drag that across to completed. It would update the field to show it has been completed, and you can do it in there. But you can see we can start to navigate that list very well. And there's a bit more of a blown up view of it. We click on that. So if you want to actually do some detail with one of those options in that list, you simply click the item and it opens up in a box here. And I've got an example here of how we use this. So an issue's come in, and this time, because it's got a number, we can see it's come from a form. And this one's an example of one that's been completed. So the request came in and Gemma picked it up as it's one of her forces. She's contacted a member of our team in another department by simply mentioning them and giving them a note. So Gemma's gone to Kenny, can you help with this one, please? Kenny's replied back, so Gemma gets a notification back as well. And all this audit trail is in the list for us, sitting there straight away. What Kenny and anybody who we tag into this, we simply write their name at the top. So at this person. So Richard's standing next to me now. If this was a live one, I'd go at Richard. It'd bring up Richard Atherton. I'd say write the comment, and he would get an email, something along the lines that you can see on that top right hand side there, which says, here you go, Dave Bailey's mentioned you in this and given you an action. You click the go to comment button, and you're not going straight to the list. You're actually going straight to the item that you've done. So there we go. I've clicked that item. There's the comment from the person who's originated, and you've got access to all the information the business has got around it. So a really good way of managing contact flow through the business. And then, of course, once you started using lists, you're starting to get some dashboards, and you can plug it into Power BI. And this is just an example of a very basic dashboard that we were able to build when we took it from that position. So that got us a great benefit straight away. We'd improve the quality of service. We're able to rationalize it. We have meetings to make sure everything's being coordinated, and we review this. So the question challenge then came to us. So how do we track our engagement rather than just our contacts with our stakeholders across the PDS? How can we provide a better service to everybody we're dealing with, reduce the repeated contact, and understand our business and the issues affecting our stakeholders better? So that's where I'm going to bring in Richard to take us through that. And I'll just throw a screen example while we swap screen share. But this is where Tom, who's in the background, came up with a fantastic PowerApp, which we call our engagement tracker. Rich, could you take us from there?
Yes, certainly. I'm just trying to dig out the correct screen to share. So just picking the right screen. So I think it's worthwhile talking about the evolution of this process. As David mentioned, we want to track our engagement with forces, individuals, and Tom very ably built PowerApp to do that. And it's an incredibly effective tool. We use it for every day right across the organisation, capturing hundreds and hundreds of contacts. And it really gives us a rich picture of who we're talking to and how often we're talking to them. And as I say, it's an effective tool. What we want to do is demonstrate some of the capabilities of that tracker, but obviously it's got lots and lots of live data in it. So what we're using here is something that we built as a dummy environment. So there's the screen. We've got all our contacts, organisations there. This is the landing page. And again, as I've just been talking about, you can filter by a pre-populated drop-down list. Yeah, you can filter those individuals and organisations in that manner. See now the engagement tracker, the contact directory. These are all the contacts we've built into our tracker. Obviously, as time goes by and you build those contacts, you should then start to see a huge long list of contacts. We've captured some very basic data around them, some email addresses and some mobile phone numbers. Here, there's a direct link out to that email address. So if you're actually in this tracker and you want to immediately contact that individual, you can just click on that button and it'll take build an email for you, and you can make contact that way. And similarly, if you were out and about and you wanted to make a phone call to that individual, you could just click on that button. It'll take you through to the dialing options around in your phone. So there you are, and clearly you can filter by individual. So contacts with a family name beginning with S for Smith. There's a couple of contacts in there, and again you can filter by first name. So It's very configurable and really easy to navigate, so you can identify who the contact is you want to get hold of. It's useful as well actually to track and look at our engagements, and here it allows us to filter by a date range. See at the very top here, we can look at all engagements within a set time frame. We can also identify contacts with a particular organization as well, so you can really narrow down those types of contacts within that particular time frame. You'll notice as well that there are markers here for feedback. We've built that as a functionality of the tool. Let's say you want to know who you've been talking to and you want to refer back to someone you engaged with, say, a month ago. You can then go into your own personal engagements, filter that out. Let's put it back to December. Let's filter on that. And then that gives us all my personal contacts. And as you can see, I can then also filter by organisation and make it really, really tight in terms of the information I want to see going backwards. You can very quickly add a new organisation or a new contact or a new engagement. We'll come to that in a minute. But let's look at some of the contacts. I've put some dummy data in here. And this is how we got to start thinking about how else we could use it in policing. One of the clearly obvious ways to do that is to think about neighbourhood contacts. A neighbourhood address book. So what you can do is actually use it and configure it to act as a neighbourhood address book. And we're going to show you what we've built for Durham. Durham are now starting to actively look at deploying this tool into their organisation, and it's a really exciting time. But let's look at the history here. So what we've built here is a West Hampsteadshire neighbourhood organisation, neighbourhood action group, and we can look at that particular contact. And what that's showing us here is details about the contact. We've also got a little bit of a marker to say what sort of risk that contact is. And again, this is a really configurable box. You put any information you want into this. You can outline it as you choose as an organisation. And we'll look at that again when we see the Durham tracker. Obviously, we've got standard information like address and websites and also influence. It's critical, obviously, as a stakeholder management tool. We want to understand who are the people that are really high influence, high impact within our organisation, and we can filter that out into a BI tool. Again, you can see that there are a number of engagements here, a number of contacts, and let's look at some of the engagements that we've had. And you can see there's been a number of contacts into this neighbourhood watch, neighbourhood action group over the period of time. We can actually see there's a range of feedback from dissatisfied to highly satisfied. So we've had varying degrees of success in terms of contact with this neighbourhood action group. Again, we can record some notes in this template here. Nothing in at the moment, but you could add anything you wanted to. Let's look at the engagement stats as well, and you can quite clearly see the types of information that is recorded, and let's just pop that out. And here we can see the proportion of dissatisfied, satisfied, and highly satisfied contacts, the type of engagement we've done as well, and sometimes that's really, really important. So again, just look at these contacts. We can see that there's been a number of engagements with John Runis, the chairman of the Neighbourhood Action Group, and they are organised in time order. And let's have a look at this contact then. This is the contact form that you, as let's say a neighbourhood officer, would use to populate. Now we can see that on the 20th of December, we've had a contact from John. It's an ad hoc call. It's a call coming into that particular, say, neighbourhood team. John's calling about ongoing issues, and he's noticed that we haven't had much contact from the local neighbourhood team, that he hasn't seen an officer or PCSO for several weeks. So as an outcome from that engagement, what we want to say is we've said to John that we'll actually make sure we build in some reassurance patrols and we'll add it to a beat plan. Again, you can populate the risks to this contact. It's not critical at the moment. It's just a default engagement contact, but this is again all configurable. We've noticed that this is a contact that is now closed because we're going to do some standard action off the back of it. And then we've got the ability to add a satisfied marker. He's happy with the outcome. We're all happy. We're all good. So let's go to the next contact we have with John, and we can see that on the 14th, on Valentine's Day, actually, he's contacted us. And sorry, let's go to the 16th of January, the next contact we've got. Let's have a look at that one. And he's asked for us to go to the NAG meeting. We've attended that NAG meeting at the request of John, and we've provided an update on patrols and current crime patterns. John's been really happy with that. We have agreed that we're going to attend the regular NAG meetings, and we've got a really good, positive, highly satisfied outcome from that. Now let's move to that last contact with John, and we can see that on the 14th of February, he's been dissatisfied. So let's have a look at that contact. Unfortunately, the latest NAG meeting wasn't attended because our staff had to attend a nearby critical incident, but John wasn't updated about the matter, and he was a little bit upset about it. Now, here's an opportunity for the member of staff to contact their sergeant, raise that issue as an issue of concern, and here we've tagged it as a high contact where the expectation of urgent action is required to resolve this element of dissatisfaction. And that's how we are managing that contact through the engagement tracker. Again, we could talk about some of the other contacts in there, but you get the general idea. Now, I'm going to try and share my screen and pull up the Durham Constabulary tracker. Just bear with me 1 second whilst I share my screen.
And while you're doing that, Rich, just a really important note is this is not about contact management and demand and incidents. This is about that informal engagement that happens every day across key individual networks in neighbourhood policing groups. So this is a way of perhaps bringing something together, a structure to unstructured data. So, Rich, I think you're ready to share screen now.
We have got the Durham tracker. Now, this is not been deployed as yet, but we are working with Durham Constabulary to deploy this in a very quick time. They've seen the real value of this tool, and we've been able to tinker with that original design that we talked about and add some unique features specifically for the neighbourhood kin tracker. And I'll try and talk to one or two of those contacts and ways we've tinkered with that. So let's look at a contact. Let's look at Killingham Housing Trust. Now, what we've added in here is more a risk and influence element, and as we said, we're able to just manage those drop down. They're very highly configurable, and we've tailored this towards a neighbourhood kin tool. So here we've got a critical risk and influence where the organisation have a significant impact or influence on the trust and confidence of the stakeholders in the organisation. Again, you can put the wording you choose within your own organisation. Again, it looks very, very similar because I think the model that we've got as an engagement tool works really, really well. And we can look at one of those contacts. And again, we tinker with it very, very slightly. We've got some information around alternate contacts. We've got a direct dial button there. We've got risk and influence we've talked about. And also we've added this tool in, which is a tag. And we may want to pull together various similar tags to understand what sort of contact we've had. And it might be how much contact we had with a certain type of faith group within a set period of time due to particular community tension. And we can do that because we've tagged that contact, and we can pull that information out into the business intelligence. So again, just tweaking with the information that we've already had and done relatively quickly. And we've got a really effective tool. And this is what we're looking at now is the desktop option. There is a handheld mobile option as well. So you can imagine a situation, a PCSO out on patrol, either goes to a particular contact as a standard action or part of the patrol plan, or as a spontaneous contact. So let's imagine you've got the PCSO out there and they've bumped into someone in the community, and we think actually this is a really important individual we need to engage with on a regular basis. We can flip up this new contact. You can see we've highlighted some mandated fields, because there's some data we really want to capture, and then there's some additional fields that would be useful to hold. And again, within a matter of minutes, a PCSO can add that contact as one of their kins. We can add in all the information we want. We can even add in tags as well, and we can then carry on with what we're doing. Similarly, if that PCSO were to drop into a new faith group, a new community organisation, it's really, really quick and simple just to add in that contact. And then again, if we've got a new engagement, we're back in with another individual. We maybe it's a repeat contact. We want to capture that information very quickly. They can use this button to capture the time and date. We can then look at other organisations. If it is a new organisation, very quickly just put some skeleton information into that drop-down box. But we should have all our organisations stored there. So let's say we want to add another contact or update a contact from Hillingdon Neighbourhood Watch. We've added that nice and simply. Again, we've got lots of different formats we can add in there. We can also, because it pulls in AD, our Active Directory, we can search for who in the organisation, within our organisation, has made contact with that individual, so we can get a measure of the engagement by individual, and we can identify how long that contact's been. And again, we could start working through this and populate who we've engaged with. Unfortunately, there's no previous contact within this neighbourhood watch group. You can imagine if we've got 5, 6, 7 contacts in there, we can just select from a previous contact. And again, it's just about using the information that's already in that tool and using it to populate a new contact really, really quickly and simply on the fly on a mobile device with one of our staff out and about. I don't really think there's that much to say, David. I think that's a pretty comprehensive coverage of the tool and what it can do and where we're going with it in the future.
Also,
yeah,
if I could just jump in as well, just in terms of that mobile piece, where with the kind of the tracker that we created for our internal use and the one that Richard first demoed, which was the college tracker, that was very much focused around being used on a desktop laptop device. But as this neighborhood tracker is sort of more operationally focused, there is also a mobile app version of that. So it is laid out on the format of a mobile device as a phone. So again, you can capture all of this data through that mobile device in a format that is far more friendly for that smaller screen.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Tom. And this has been an evolution for us, and we started off with a simple form into email, into lists, so we managed that really well. Then we looked at how could we do this, and it's not a CRM. We keep saying that it's a tool that helps the business intelligence. The contact list does appear in the engagement tracker for the work that we do in terms of organizational level, and then we thought, well, this really works. We need to be able to think about how we can do this at a level for neighbourhood kins as well, key individual networks. So we ended up with this bespoke. So just again, to give you a little bit more idea, of course, because we're using the Dataverse and all those sort of things, we're then able to start applying things like Power BI to it. So we can start getting some business intelligence and understanding, can drill into it and be able to do it. And these are some of the dashboards we've been developing over the time. So we've seen this in action now. We think this is an absolute opportunity for trust and confidence. The next steps in coming weeks is the stakeholder version. We're going to try and make that available in the solutions catalog. This is going to be ideal for our national colleagues, for back office teams. One plea for me is don't have multiple stakeholder management tools in the same organisation, because guess what, you'll be engaging with the same people. We'll continue to work with Durham Constabulary on the kin focused version, getting feedback from the front line, and again we're hoping to make that available to more and more forces as that comes through. We're supporting forcing the adoption now. It's really important this isn't just a rollout and do this course and do it. We did this by doing 10-minute training sessions to talk about, not about the technology. The technology is really easy to use, about what you should record and why and the value of it. So really good to be able to share our coaching and training experience. And then we're going to be looking at some more Power BI tools to do this. So it will hopefully be appearing in the solutions catalog very soon. That's a public-based version of it there. But Rachel, I believe you've got a couple of questions.
Yeah, Dave. So we've got a few here. So one here, did you consider completely removing the inboxes and just having the MS forms as a route in?
That's a really big question about your contact strategy. We've removed the email addresses from our websites, and we've seen the proportion that come into forms constantly growing and moving from the email because it's a more structured format. But we don't want to ever discount them from our point of view. Again, you could think about that into, is this better for neighbourhood teams and departments to have this managed through a list rather than things, because then you get that audit trail that works really well. So have a think about it, work it through, talk to your business engagement manager about the advice and our experience. I've got a question for Tom, haven't we?
There's quite a few questions for Tom here, but he has been very busy trying to respond to a lot of them. But if we pull one out, it seems to be a bespoke list view, not gallery view. How have you created that, like task planner sort of view?
And this is in the contact tracker. So
Yeah,
this is a function. Go for it, Tom.
Yeah, so within SharePoint, it's relatively new. I think it's probably been around about a year now, but there's a new functionality called, and I did post some details on there, it's called Board View, and it allows you to create buckets, and each bucket has a title, and that title would correspond to one of the fields within your record. So for example, it might be open, new, close, that type of thing. But ultimately, if you just drag and drop those records within those buckets, all it's doing behind the scenes is updating that particular field and then displaying that record in the corresponding bucket. So it's a really good way to get that sort of very similar feel to a Kanban board where you can move your content around.
And I think they call it Kanban board, don't they, view on the options when you drop it down?
Yeah, I think it's just called board, but yeah, it is ultimately based on Kanban.
Yeah, and you can still, with it being a list, create different views of that list and make that available on things like SharePoint, etc., or other functionality. And we actually have a meeting on a Friday where we go through the board and we actually action the board. And the beauty of being able to notify through the comments and that instant audit trail, it just really simplifies it because you're not having to copy emails, get everything to do that, and we can make sure we get those responses and monitor them. And again, we're looking at analytics behind that. How long does it take us to close a job off, etc. So all those sort of things can be done in a list, which you couldn't do in any other area. I think we've got time for one more question, Rachel. Do you want to pick one out? The bottom one?
Yeah, that's what I was going for. So could this be used for managing incoming correspondence and the case management of that?
Absolutely, and there's a huge range of options of this. It's what we developed for that sort of thing. How do we make sure we're getting the right response to the right person from the right person in PDS, and how can we get them quickly? You will saw on the graph that we get quite a few people who have problems with the 2FA on Knowledge Hub. So the Automate automatically sends that request straight to the team who can deal with that without coming into this process, because we know that's the fastest response. And as we get more and more data, we can start building more and more automations to solve those problems and get them moving forward. But yeah, absolutely. So we have run out of time. It's always the case, and the siren's just gone off in my ear. It's great to be actually out and about today. But again, we do use these tools. The solution catalog is there. There's lots of options in there. We're not actually doing a webinar next week. We've got a couple of other commitments to do where we're learning more about Viva Engage, etc. But we will be back the week after with lots more events. And please do keep an eye on the PDS website for the latest stuff, and please give us your feedback. If you've got examples like this that you think are valuable, and if you're interested in taking anything through that you've seen forward today, you can build the Power Automate element, the list yourselves. It took minutes and a little bit of refinement to make it work. You can do all sorts of things like having to post it into a Teams and all sorts of things like that. But if you want to look at the app for both the key individual networks or perhaps for your back office function or project, get in touch with your business engagement manager and we'll be happy to help you and share the knowledge we picked up. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks to Richard for bearing through the noise and chaos at Batco, and Tom with his dodgy Wi-Fi for once. And I think we've got through it. So thanks Esther, Mike and Rachel at the back who've made this to work today. So thanks a lot for joining us and see you very soon.